adventurer. I hope you're ready to go on a quest, because Hearthstone has introduced 11 new powerful quests into the game that will hopefully...
Let's get salty!
Hey guys, how's it going? Zeddy here with a brand new video, and I'm just gonna go ahead and give you guys my 100% real take on what exactly happened yesterday, because there's honestly some good news, but unfortunately there is some worse news, because I started my day with the expansion having an absolute blast with Quest DK, and it just turns out that this quest is really not that bad in all honesty. This quest has a lot of lethality, and it turns out that the Death Rattle package of the High Cultist with Travel Security and Awakener of Souls is actually a pretty good secondary win condition that gives this deck a little bit of flexibility in order to have a scam win condition as well as a general game plan that can actually win. And I will be, talking about this deck in a future video in greater detail, but we need to talk about the absolute red elephant in the room, or I guess the yellow elephant in the room, because we're not here to talk about the red elephant yet. Murloc Paladin was 22 of my 61 games on the ladder yesterday, and honestly, I don't even think that's the biggest problem in Hearthstone right now, because if you look at my win rate, I'm actually positive against Murloc Paladin, so I believe that this is just a very common occurrence that happens on day one metas, where the aggro deck is just going to be the good deck because it destroys the unoptimized, unrefined decks, and over time, Murloc Paladin will get worse. But what is not acceptable on almost any single level is this. This is a screenshot that I took 13 hours ago, I believe, like almost before I ended my stream, taking a look at what the good decks were at Diamond through Legend. And well, does anybody want to, point out the common trend here? What's the deal here with this? Unfortunately, the quest decks are not in a good spot almost at all, and it is almost every single one of them. 8 out of 11 quests in Legend are worse than Imbue Priest. Remember the worst deck of the previous expansion in the Emerald Dream? Imbue Priest, that deck that had to be buffed about 3-4 times before it was actually maybe somewhat good, and even now it is still not even above a 40%. And before you guys are like, well, Clark, what happened while you were asleep? Not a lot really changed, unfortunately. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different quest decks, as well as Quest Druid, being separated by Hydration Warrior as almost unplayable decks below a 45% win rate at Diamond through Legend. This isn't even top 1K Legend, dude. This is... honestly, I feel like this is unprecedented. I've never seen this many archetypes fall flat, and it might say a lot about the quest as a mechanic, but I believe it says a lot more about how difficult some of these quests really are, and how their lack of lethality really doesn't give you a reason to want to support these decks. Like, I feel like Hearthstone is doing a good job in the design of these cards aesthetically, where it's like, oh wow, dealing 2 extra damage, that sounds appealing. I actually want to do that. Some of these archetypes do seem very fun on principle, but if you open up the jar and then you find out that there's nothing really inside and you've just been sold on the idea of a good deck, that's not really something that a lot of people enjoy. And as soon as they start having these kind of win rates with these decks, they just drop it like a bad habit. It's really sad to see Quest Warrior at a 6.9% popularity, and it just isn't really doing all too much right now. And if you take a look at top 1K Legend, it is very clear that quest decks are the absolute loser of this expansion, and it's only day 2, man. Like, these numbers are probably just gonna get worse instead of getting better, because some of these quests can absolutely not deal with the decks that are still thriving in the meta right now. And so that does beg the question, what are the good decks right now? It is essentially, Quest Paladin is the most common deck that you will see, especially on your way to Legend, but the moment that you're in top, 1,000, 2,000 Legend, this deck drops off almost immediately. There are definitely still people trying to make it work, because for some reason people like Murloc Paladin, and well, the deck absolutely dies to Lucky Druid. That's right, low. I don't know why, low-key Druid, whatever you want to call it. It is a deck that is all about Low the Living Legend, and I did predict this card being an absolute S tier, mostly due to the fact that you have Playhouse Giant and Ceaseless Expanse that you can play immediately after you play your low. So the whole reason why this deck is good right now is because of all the Murloc Paladins, and this deck can beat Murloc Paladin because you just have to play your low into Ceaseless Double Giant. And then if that doesn't win the game, you have Carrier or Force Lord Cenarius in order to buff up your board or generate a board while also dealing damage in the process. So yeah, this deck is the absolute big winner of day one. I thought it was all about Murloc Paladin, but in top 1000 Legend, it really seems like this Druid deck has absolutely taken over. And because this Druid deck has taken over, it has brought in an even worse foe that honestly, I'm not even gonna get into a rant in this video because I don't want to derail what I'm talking about and I want to be a little bit more, you know, concise with my words. Menagerie Jug. I'll just say that if Menagerie Jug is an actual card in the best deck in the game right now, I think that's a problem. And the main reason why I believe this is a problem is because almost every single minion that you're running in your deck has 2 different tribes now, especially if you start looking at Rainbow Menagerie DK. I am just not at all excited about the idea of just playing Curvestone, winning by turn 5 with Menagerie Jug, and then that's just GG because this is the only way that we can make balance in Hearthstone, is by having Druid doing ramp stuff, Paladin doing aggro stuff, and then you have an aggro meta that evolves around the Druid deck because you absolutely need to beat this deck quickly. And then what if I told you it's not over yet? There is still freaking Psycho Rogue, and it's not even running Incendious because according to Maxi, it's just too slow. The format is too fast-paced right now, so you can't even play Incendious, so guess what this deck is doing? You're just throwing out Giants. Playhouse Giant is an absolute problem right now. Warning, not a Playhouse. Do not attempt to climb, because you will not be able to climb. It's impossible. You're gonna see this Giant on turn 4, turn 5 because of Druids, and if Druids aren't doing that, then Rogues are doing that, and then if you're not seeing Playhouse Giant, you're probably still dead on turn 5 because of the Menagerie decks and the Murloc Paladins. It is an absolute failure in my opinion, actually, if this is going to be how the meta evolves. And I realize it's day 2, it's way too soon to say these things, but again, man, it's like, where is the hope? The hope is already down the toilet. These decks are worse than whiz-bang decks, man. It's like there's not a lot these decks can really do unless we have some kind of like emergency buffs, emergency nerfs, and honestly, I feel like that's going to have more implications down the line if we just start ticking things without really thinking about what we're ticking. So the one thing I will say is that all these legendaries looked really fun. I was really looking forward to them, but this is like the expectation that I had, is that, you know, Quest Warlock would be good. I think Quest Druid is still got a lot of potential, but it might actually turn out that Token Druid just doesn't want to run this and it's just going to play normal Token Druid, because there's some potential for the deck, and I have some videos, again, I do have planned about what I did enjoy on the first day of the expansion. But this was my expectation. This is the reality. More than half of the cards are like almost completely aimless right now, and I feel like that's a big problem because this isn't a deck building issue. This is a power level issue, and it's just really upsetting that if you have almost any of these cards in the F tier, you really can't utilize them, and I just feel like that's a big problem. I thought Toro was gonna be the worst card in the game, but it turns out half of the cards in this expansion are just not doing well. And I don't want to really end this on a negative note, so I will tell you guys that, again, I did honestly have fun with the new cards, and I actually made a really weird Ultra Sword Chemical Spell Warrior that had an amazing highlight where I got both of these guys down by turn 5. So it's a pretty fun time if you're not just focusing on what's happening in top 1000 Legend. If you're playing up against your friends, you can maybe generate something really goofy like this, and this wasn't the most goofy thing that I did in this game, and I'll be making a video talking about what exactly is going on with Walta Warrior, because we have a comma in this deck. Absolutely spice, right? Absolute cinema. But again, it's absolutely overshadowed by the fact that if you wanted to play a quest, you almost can't right now. So I really don't know what to suggest at the moment, other than Blizzard, something's gotta change. I mean, quests are too bad. Aggro is running rampant. We have classic problems and mechanics that are still becoming an issue even after we have tried to deal with them in the past, but they are just coming back as ghosts, and we don't have the Ghostbusters. I don't know what to say. So hopefully something changes soon, because it's really sad to see that more than half the quests are in such an unplayable state, and if you have any of these cards, you're not really going to be able to utilize them. So thank you so much for making it to the end of this not deck breakdown, and we'll see you in the next video.